Test.
Does a Public Records Act request and it gets all things into that.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the West County Wastewater Board of Directors meeting. It is March 19th, 6:32. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Yes. Director King Meredith? Here. Director Alvarado?
Here.
Director Weiner?
Present.
Vice President Sudduth? President Rentila?
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum with five members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, I would like to ask Director Alvarado if you could please lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you want to remain seated or a moment of silence, please feel free. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. General Counsel Nicole Witt will serve as our parliamentarian for tonight's meeting.
As a reminder to members of the public in attendance, the board has adopted rules governing the conduct of its public meetings. Public participation is welcome and encouraged. All public comments should be directed to the board as a body, and the board asks that you please respect the 3-minute time limit per speaker. All persons attending board meetings shall observe the rules. Any additional rules the board may establish and the orders of the president with respect to the conduct of the meeting. No person may disrupt or disturb the board meeting. Disturbing, impeding, or otherwise preventing the orderly conduct of the board meeting could result in an individual's removal from the meeting.
Thank you. Directors, before we begin tonight's agenda, I ask that you be mindful of the board's rules of decorum, in particular to practice civility and decorum in discussions and debate in order to preserve the order of this board meeting. Directors will wait until they are recognized. And let's see. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration. Public comments are for items that are not on the agenda. Members of the public may comment during this time, up to 3 minutes per speaker. Directors may briefly respond or ask clarifying questions, but may not engage in discussion regarding public comment made during this time. Now is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak for tonight's meeting?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to speak on non-agenda items, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment at this time.
All right, I guess next on the agenda is closed session. General Counsel, could you please announce closed session items?
The board will now convene into closed session as described in the agenda. Now is the time for public comments on closed session items 1 and 2. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments or requests to speak on closed session items 1 and 2?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to speak on closed session items 1 and 2, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
The board will now convene in a separate room for closed session. We'll return to open session at its conclusion and report out as needed.
Thank you. Please close your laptops and turn your microphones off. Thank you.
Give me 1 minute.
The banks for offering those bad. Advice? No, not advice. They sold them shit. Huh? They got 2 law firms and
It's circling.
Let us know, Annie.
they'll win.
Okay, it's circling.
They'll win.
Everybody can go ahead.
It's
Mine is
circling.
Okay. it's fine.
Okay, we good?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let her go.
It is 8:20. The board returns from closed session and there is no reportable action.
Thank you. General Manager Andrew Clow, please lead us through the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, as soon as I can find out where I am.
Number 8. Or wait.
Thank you, Mr. President. The consent calendar consists of items 3 through 5 on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on consent calendar items?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to comment on consent calendar items, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
Thank you. We recommend the board approve consent calendar items 3 through 5.
Can we get a motion to approve the consent calendar 3 through 5?
So moved.
Get a second?
And I'll second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
On the motion by Director Alvarado, seconded by Director King Meredith, to approve consent calendar items 3 through 5, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Point of order. We never did ask anybody if they had any comments. I
My
had
apologies.
none, but
My apologies. We do have a comment.
no. Do any of us have a comment?
Director Weiner,
No?
no comment?
No comment?
My apologies. Anyone else have a comment? Director King? Nope. Thank you. My apologies.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is regular calendar item 6, to adopt a resolution approving the West County Wastewater District Annex to the Contra Costa County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on item 6?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 6, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
Good evening, President Rintela, Vice President Status, and members of the board. My name is Judy Chen. I'm the Planning and Support Manager with IMP Department. Today, I would like to present you the Contra Costa County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, West County Wastewater Annex. This is the document that has been approved by Cal OES and FEMA, but pending adoption and approval from West County Wastewater Board of Directors. So what is the local hazard mitigation plan? This is the 5 years plan that sets a mitigation priority for the entire Contra Costa County. During the planning process, we as a participant, we got together, identify a list of the hazard in our jurisdiction. We then come up with a mitigation plan to accommodate those hazards. We also reach out to the general public for their feedback on their plan. So all this were part of the outreach program that we did last year in May. And this is the list of the participants that it's in the Contra Costa County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. There are few new participants, and West County Wastewater is one of them. So we applied for to be part of this plan, and we were in good timing, and I will explain more in the next slide when we talk about the timeline. No, there are many benefits of why we want to be part of this plan. So one of them is protect human life, prevent damage or loss of the property, ensure the continuity of government and business, it promote the interagency coordination and response. It also provide awareness and preparedness. And there is also one very important part of why we want to participate in this local hazard mitigation plan is because while it's not guaranteed, but it will allow us to be eligible for certain grant funding. So I think that's something very important that I want to emphasize. And here is a list of the hazard that we as a 40 participant has collectively identified. We have categorized that into two sections, natural hazards and human-caused technology hazards. We have been through as an agency. We submit our interest to participate in July 2023. And in December, we were invited to be part of the participant in the workshop. And also in December, we submit our first annex document. Again, we participate in the second workshop in March, and by April, we were being instructed to start doing the outreach program. So from April the 22nd to May the 31st, we came out with a project plan for the outreach program and initiated, planned it, and reached out to about 30 and plus local businesses and also the general public locations. So by October, we submit our second final submission. There were additional documents that was required by CalOES and FEMA. And by December, we received the approval confirmation from County OES that West County wastewater is all ready to go. But the overall 40 participants plan was not approved by FEMA until January, because there were some participants that still need to submit additional information. So January, we received the confirmation from FEMA that they have approved our annex, and it's just pending for the Board of Directors approval and adoption. And that's why I'm here today to ask for your approval and adoption of this annex. I do want to take this opportunity, before I go to the next slide. So I do want to take this opportunity to recognize the plan organizer, the county OES, for their leadership in getting all these 40 participants in this plan. While there are many sections that was provided by West County Wastewater, there are many information or a collective effort by the county OES to put it into the document so that it all looks uniformly across the 40 participants. There are many statistic numbers provided by FEMA has been a part of our annex, and those were provided by the county OES. Now, during the community outreach in person, like I say, we have reached out probably about 30 and plus locations. We did the outreach program in person. Many of those locations were private sector business. So we went to each of those business locations, leave our brochure, talk to the business owner. We also have host multiple events at the local libraries. We also have a presence in the multiple social media platform. I do want to take this opportunity to thanks to our community program manager, Kate, for her support during the community outreach period. She has designed a comprehensive social media outreach program and the message, and you can see those information as part of the annex documents. So thank you, Kay, for your support as always. And here are just some of the pictures that we took while we were out there meeting with the general public. A lot of them is a local business owner, and they appreciate that we reach out to them to let them know about this program and asking them for their feedback. The upper left-hand corner is the Brente Chamber of Commerce. They have invited us. I reached out to them, and they have invited us to be part of their board of directors meeting. So I was there presenting this mitigation plan. Yeah. And here are just some of the pictures that we did the outreach program in San Pablo Library. And here are just some of the example of the social media event that we did during that period of time. And continuously, we continue to still have this type of information on our social media platform. And at this time, I would like to answer if there's any question.
Thank you for your presentation, greatly appreciated. Director Alvarado, as Chair of the Infrastructure, Environment, and Operations Committee, do you have any questions or comments before we go to the board?
No, just a great presentation, and we did get this presentation at the committee, and we did recommend approving this to the next stage, so we're good.
Yes, we did. Director Weiner, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand. So there are 40 participants, and did they each submit their own plan?
Yes.
And why are we calling our plan an annex?
Annex. So it's Contra Costa County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, and each participant has its own annex.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I didn't quite get that.
Director Weiner, there are some cities that develop their own plan. That would be quite the extensive effort. And so, as you see, a number of the smaller cities, even some of the larger ones in Contra Costa County, have joined on to the Contra Costa County plan, and that's pretty typical. So all the front part of the plan is generic for everything in the county, and then there's the annex, then goes into specifics for each of the entities that are involved.
I read every page, and it's impressive how much information was gathered and put in there. So I understand the methodology and the definitions of the different factors and the weighting scheme. What I'm interested in is who determined the values that were plugged into. There must be 10,000 numbers stuck in all those tables. So was that you?
No. I would say, depending on which table you are referring to, when there is like a risk index number, there will have a footnote at the bottom if it's provided by FEMA. A lot of this information that where county has emerged those information into our annex, a lot of those statistic information are provided by FEMA. Mm-hmm.
So FEMA supplies a range of numbers depending on our particular situation, and then we choose them? Or because there was like weighting factors and, variability in, is what our risk high, is our risk low because we're West County Wastewater District, where are located, they seem pretty idiosyncratic. I mean, basically toward us. Is it more of a general number than specific to our district?
Section where is a general number that like nationwide, the risk factor is this, and there are sections where it's more towards to our jurisdiction.
Yeah, so who chose, which factor to stick into the squares? Did we have a consultant do that? Did we have staff do that for each individual risk, or?
Yeah, That is a really good question. So there are sections that we provide and weigh in those factors. And the county also hire a third-party consultant, facilitate the information that what needs to be put into whose jurisdiction's information.
And so the end number, the master number, there's like risk and weighting, and then you come up with a risk, I don't know what you call it, profile number. And then does that, if we have a higher risk number, do we stand to get more FEMA money, or is that related to the amount of money we might get?
Without us being a part of or having our own hazard mitigation plan, we would not be eligible for any FEMA money or Army Corps of Engineer money. So this is a critical thing for us to have in place to be able to get that in the future.
But the values that we end up with is not indicative.
It does. It depends. I don't know what the applications will look like here in the future, but yes, if you were in a higher risk zone and it was a piece of infrastructure that needed to be protected and needed to be there, that would put us in a better position on many of the applications for funding. If we were in a higher risk zone, but we really didn't need to be there, we could have moved somewhere else, then not so much. But for a piece of critical infrastructure ourselves, if we're in a higher risk area, then yes, that would make us more eligible, or at least it has in the past.
Okay. And then, so if that's true, that final number makes, for every category, whatever, makes a difference on our ability to get money, couldn't our competitors start there and then fill in all the other numbers to end up with a desired result?
We're not competitors. We're fellow agencies working together.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, that I think, oh, and then there's one table where it was talking about the Pinole Center Lift Station Force Main Replacement Project. And it was, I think there was it needs to be edited because most of the other ones said we're replacing one pipe with two pipes of different volume, or we're placing one pipe with another pipe of a different volume. But that particular, just one table, that particular thing stood out to me because I couldn't understand. It didn't make any sense what the district was claiming they were going to do, and it's just one table out of 1,000. So I didn't copy the page number, but it's referring to the Pinole Center Lift Station Force Main Replacement Project. So you might check that out. And that's all that I have.
Great questions. Director King Meredith?
Okay.
Oh, I didn't mention, great job, incredible amount of information, and a wonderful job in putting it all together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director King Meredith?
Yes, thank you, President Retihan. Yes, start off, Judy, great job, and kudos to Kate, too, for the community engagement piece. I thought that this report that was presented shows how we can collaborate and the need for collaboration, especially when you're going for dollars. And to see how to be annexed or to be considering to be annexed with these other 40. I was just looking through, I thought it was very interesting just to see the climate change, the current, future vulnerabilities, and to look at, you know, the climate change, the dams, the levee, which we're looking at levees. You know, we're looking at the North Richmond levee right now, and the sea level rise. So just to say that, to show these tables of increase, and what we're looking at. And that's on page 9, table 9, that I was looking at. But all in one, you know, I thought it was very informative. to see a collaborative. I know years ago I worked with a collaborative, and I had a very large collaborative with the county, and just to see to come aboard, more money for the bank when you go to look for monies for projects. So great job, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Alvarado, anything else you'd like to add? Or
No, thank you.
Vice President Sudduth?
Thank you. Great presentation. Speak only if it improves the silence. So, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kate.
Yes. We thanked you at the IOE committee, and we thank you here. That's a tremendous amount of work, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that information. That being said, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or
Motion?
from the dais?
No, just thank you, Judy, and I think that the list she had up there, the planning partners, and you saw all the different agencies that were annexed. We're the only one that was added this year, is that correct, Judy? So it's an example of sort of where we were as an agency, that all these other agencies in the county were participatory and were part of this, and we were mentioned, only that we were identified in the general part of the plan as a piece of critical infrastructure, but we had not joined the plan or been participatory in the past, and that's a big difference of where we are now and where we were. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, President. So, yeah, my Deputy General Manager just remind me that I need to ask the Board of Directors to adopt a resolution for this plan, please.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'd like to see if we can get a motion.
Yes,
Move the
absolutely. Move the item.
item. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, on the motion by Director Alvarado and seconded by Director King Meredith to approve regular calendar item number 6. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay or no. The motion passes 5-5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Next on the agenda is, wait a second, am I missing?
Number
No,
8.
that's it. Go from 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I always say.
All right. Next on the agenda is other business item 8, reports from staff, general manager, and general counsel, which includes the February 2025 check register and a legislative update from general counsel. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on item 8?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 8, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
Staff is available to answer any questions regarding the check register if we have them, and then we'll ask general counsel to provide her legislative update.
Are there any questions? We'll start with Director Weiner.
I found a particularly ironic check. It was for $1,768 for a Roto-Rooter company. I need no.
I'm sorry.
I need no answer. It's just ironic.
It is.
Yeah, that's them.
Meredith? Director Alvarado.
They charge.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Vice President
Be
Sudduth?
charging.
That's it. Thank you.
I concur. I have
Isn't it
nothing.
always-
Thank you. So there is no action required on this.
Great.
Here comes general counsel.
Good evening, directors.
Buenas.
So I'm going to speak to you tonight about a few recent changes in California law that apply to local agencies and public officials. I'm going to cover all of these at a very high level, and then if there's a need to sort of dig in more, we absolutely can. All right. So this first bill builds upon existing law, which prohibits products for children under the age of 12 to contain certain levels of PFAS. This new law requires the DTSC to develop regulations and an enforcement regime relative to that existing prohibition. And as you can see, there's an effective date of July 1st, 2030 for completion of that, or rather the beginning of that. This next slide has two bills which are related to Prop 218. This is a pretty exciting set of bills that Hanson Bridget was deeply involved in getting to the governor's desk. So we're pretty excited about this development. It's a really good step for our clients. SB 1072 requires that any charges exceeding the cost of service to be used to defray future costs. So as you all know, agencies like West County are required to limit the charges to each customer's proportional share of the services received, but it doesn't really address what happens if there are any overages. Because public agencies don't have profit, as you all know, that those amounts usually are put in a reserve fund and used as a credit against future rates. More recently, water agencies have seen lawsuits from high water users who are demanding refunds for the any excess amounts that were required related to that higher water use. So this bill is really a effort to protect all ratepayers and ensure that those any overages can be used to defray future costs. And then AB 2257 is really a new bill to develop a process of administrative exhaustion when it comes to challenges to Prop 218. And it allows agencies to avail themselves of procedures whereby in order to sue an agency for its rate plan, the individual must first have objected during the process, and then the record is limited to what was raised during that objection. So what that really does is it creates a mechanism to payer concerns before proceeding to litigation and kind of developing that process. This was really a multi-year effort working with many different agencies, including Hanson Bridget's clients, to adopt what we think is a really reasonable administrative exhaustion procedure. This next bill, AB 2561, requires local agencies to present vacancy and recruitment effort information at a public hearing at least once a year and before the adoption of the budget or whether that's an annual budget or a multi-year budget. At the public hearing, the agency should address policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may be an obstacle to recruitment. And then bargaining units with a vacancy are entitled to present at that public hearing. This next bill revises a number of different areas of the Political Reform Act, but I just wanted to highlight the area that's most relevant to West County, which relates to campaign filings. That's it. You can see there the additional 72-hour rule for agencies to post late campaign filings and some additional clarifications. This next law relates to Government Code Section 1090. Government Code Section 1090 prohibits public officials from entering into a contract in which they have a financial interest. The statute describes a number of what are known as remote interest exceptions, which would allow the agency to proceed with the contract so long as the individual noted the interest in the record and recused themselves. So this creates a new remote interest exception if the financial interest is that of a public officer's child and the child is an officer or director of or has an ownership interest of 10% or more in a party to the contract if that information was actually known to the official. So an effort, I think, to just continue to acknowledge the types of remote interests that wouldn't rise to the level of fully precluding an agency from continuing with the contract, and this one will be effective in January of next year.
Does this allow a public official to have a child with 10% financial stake in a contracting party with the district?
That's what it's for. If that was, if that information was actually known to the official, then what, in that case, what would happen is that official would need to note the financial interest in the record and then recuse themselves from participation. But you know, we've talked about this before, the rules under 1090 are so draconian that if there is a financial interest and a conflict of interest, then either the individual resigns, or the agency can't enter into the contract. So this is an avenue around that.
So this allows that exception, but it has to be reported in the 700?
No, reported in a meeting. The financial interest would need to
So if my
be.
child had a 10% interest in a construction firm that we hired, I would have to recuse myself from voting for that contract.
Exactly, and note the interest in the meeting record. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
So this next set of bills, these are modifications to the Levine Act. It was actually 2 bills that changed the Levine Act in the same year in different ways. And so the Levine Act prohibited, I'll talk about what the law was before, prohibited an officer from accepting, soliciting, or directing $250 from a party while a proceeding or entitlement is pending, and for 12 months after that decision, if the officer knows or has reason to know that the participant has a financial interest in the proceeding. So formerly, there were exceptions for competitively bid contracts and contracts for labor and employment agreements. So this bill expands the definition of what is exempt from the Levine Act. And, you know, I've described some of them there. It also clarifies that the Levine Act doesn't apply to city attorneys and county councils if they're only providing advice to the agency and that's their capacity. It also extends the deadline for returning a disqualifying contribution from 14 days to 30 days. So that's an opportunity where if you find that you have accepted a contribution in excess of what was that 250 threshold, you could return that contribution amount and still stay on the right side of the statute. But that's now an extended deadline, although still pretty short. And then it also codifies some regulations as to what is an agent for the purposes of the Levine Act.
This came up in different contexts. So on the exemptions, routine contract renewals, development agreements without modifications. So the routine contract renewals, would that be like amendments to existing contracts that were already publicized?
So it is, I was actually looking at this just today because the language of the statute, as I said, it used to just have this really short parenthetical that said competitively bid contracts are exempt. And the reason for that is because this is really about using campaign contributions to influence decision-making. And low bid contracts, there is no real decision-making. The law says you award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So that's why those were exempt. Now that definition has been kind of modified a bit, but again, I think not in any way that substantively changes what the law says. It's just if this is a low bid contract, then that's exempt from the Levine Act. What's new is that now amendments to low bid contracts are exempt from the Levine Act requirements unless it's a material modification, which is 10% of the contract value or $50,000, whichever is less. And so that is, I think, interesting and a new development because it brings this whole category of contracts that were never within the purview of the Levine Act into that realm.
10% of the contract value.
Or $50,000, whichever is less.
Whichever's less. And then, so the competitively bid, if it's competitively bid, doesn't necessarily mean it's the lowest bidder.
In this context, I think that is what the statute means, and that's how it's been interpreted. I don't think that is a change. mean competitively bid as in low bid, awarding to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And I think if I guess I'm saying that without obviously any case law or guidance interpreting this since it just started, but I was digging into this and my interpretation is really based on the fact that in looking through the legislative history, there was nothing that indicated that there had been to this competitively bid contract to expand it to include something like an RFP where the contract is awarded on a best value basis. I didn't find anything in the legislative history that said that. And if you're sort of going off of the reasoning that I just laid out, low bid contracts are exempt because the law doesn't allow for really any discretion in decision making, but an amendment to a low bid contract, there is discretion there. There's no legal requirement necessarily to amend a contract in any specific way. So I think that kind of pulls it. That's what I'm assuming is the reason they pulled it back in.
So we could take a $220 bribe, but not a,
What was that?
so we could take a $220 bribe, but not a $250 bribe.
Well, just wait a second. There's more. There's more. We got one more bill that's going to get to that issue.
Before you do the next one, so I just want to make sure, so if it's competitively big, but it's not based on low bid, the low bidder.
Right.
It is not exempt.
Yes, I think that is a reasonable interpretation.
And so.
I think that's a reasonable interpretation. I think there is, like I said, as far as I'm aware, this hasn't been interpreted yet, but I think based on my reading of the legislative history that is a reasonable approach. And exempting or trying to exempt contracts that were awarded on a basis other than low bid, I think it carries some risk.
Right, because there's an evaluation panel.
Right.
That could.
And there's discretion and
There's discretion, right? And they could be swayed.
Right.
By somebody who might have an interest.
Right.
In swaying, right?
Mhm.
And then, because it's the same consideration with the contract amendments, even if it was competitively bid.
Right.
At the onset. So anything that's not low bid, generally, like an invitation for bid or something like that, we have to be careful.
Right, and I will say that the exceptions continue, so we'll go on to the next bill and you can see how this has changed. So this next bill also further amends the Levine Act, and it includes a number of additional exceptions, including contracts valued at under $50,000, contracts where neither party receives financial compensation, contracts between government entities, and this provision also notably to your comment, Director Wiener, increases that limit to $500. So this is a bit of a banner year for the Levine Act, a lot of action and a lot of changes. The Levine Act, it was one that hadn't really been modified in some time. A couple of years ago, it was amended, and now we're seeing 2 more amendments. So I think this is all sort of born out of the prior amendment raised questions, and now more people are looking at it, interpreting it, and looking for and finding areas to improve, clarify, all of that.
You said there was a $50,000, what was that related to?
One of the exemptions is contracts that are valued at less than $50,000.
Right, so if I take a campaign contribution and the GM has the authority to accept a bid from that same entity, I have at below $50,000, then there's no liability.
Yeah, so the statute came together with our policies pretty beautifully there. Not every agency has that $50,000 limit, but the other piece is that even if it were, even if we didn't have that new statutory exemption for contracts under $50,000, if it's a contract that's within the GM's authority, if the GM's authority is $100,000, you're not the decision maker. So the need to sort of make these Levine Act certifications and disclose isn't necessary because you're not actually making a decision. The decision's not before you, it's before the GM. But you're right, that did come together pretty nicely for us. All right. This next bill is related to the Brown Act. This is kind of a cleanup bill or maybe like a clarification bill. So as you all know, there are different conditions under which the board can meet via teleconference, traditional rules, and then new rules related to emergency services and just cause. And this was really an effort to offer more clarity as to how many meetings, remote meetings, a director could participate under the just cause or emergency circumstances exceptions. The statute used to say 20%, and lawyers aren't good at math, so obviously we sought a cleanup and some clarity, and so that's the change here. And then it also just clarifies what is a meeting, so multiple meetings on the same day are one meeting for the purposes of this exception. So not really all that substantive of a change, really more of just a administrative improvement. And then this last bill here is a measure that clarifies one of the closed session exceptions, and it includes threats to critical infrastructure controls or critical infrastructure information relating to a cybersecurity threat. That's one of the bases under which the board can meet in closed session. So it's a short analysis of a handful of the many, many bills that the governor signed this last legislative cycle. I did want to follow up because at the last meeting, there was a request for me to give a little bit of an explanation about the impacts of overturning the Chevron case and what it means for the Supreme Court to have overturned Chevron deference. This isn't a new change, but I think actually kind of the passage of time gives us more information about it and a better understanding. So the Supreme Court, or rather, prior to the Supreme Court's recent decision under Chevron deference, courts were required to follow an agency's interpretation, reasonable interpretation of an ambiguous law. And when this matter came before the Supreme Court in overturning Chevron, the court said, agencies do not interpret laws, courts do, which is kind of all you need to know from the perspective of the court's view as to where the proper power rests when it comes to interpreting law. So from this, we really should expect, and I think we've seen this already, to see less interpretation and less application of policy in administrative law rulemaking and in interpreting any kind of ambiguous statute. We should also expect to see more courts stepping in to interpret the law. I think there are some important notes. In overturning Chevron, the court was clear that it is not retroactive. So any decisions that were decided based on Chevron deference are explicitly not also overturned. So that's important. This new change really requires Congress to be explicit that agencies have rulemaking authority. Since overturning Chevron, we've still seen about 4 out of 5 cases going in the agency's direction and in the agency's favor. And the reason for that is because when agencies were interpreting statutes, they were applying what are known as the rules of statutory construction, legal principles for interpreting the law, and the court is applying those same rules. So the courts are kind of coming to the same conclusions that the agency would have come to or did come to, even without the kind of higher level of deference that Chevron may have afforded. It's also, I think, important to note that folks have seen this coming for some time. So agencies were drafting defensively to have a lot of context and a lot of explanation in their rulemaking to kind of better shore them up against an ultimate challenge. And then I think we're also realistically going to see a lot more lobbying, looking for laws to be drafted in a specific way so that you get a specific outcome, understanding that the agency isn't going to have as much flexibility and the courts are going to more strictly align with specific language in the statute. And then I think the last piece that's also important is that while this change to Chevron, the overturning of Chevron deference undercut agencies' powers of interpretation, their fact-finding powers still remain, and that is still a significant power when you're thinking about the expertise that rests within agencies. And that is what I have.
Well, I want to thank you for educating us and making us better directors. So that being said, do you have any questions or comments, starting with Director Weiner?
Given the executive branch overreach and shutting down agencies that were put in by law of the Congress, do you see that what outcome do you expect from lawsuits against agencies that have been, or the fact that some agencies are no longer going to be in existence that made these rulings and rules? I mean, it looks to me like Congress can't do anything about it. The executive's going to take care of business, and it's going to do what Congress used to do. So doesn't this make the whole milieu, this fight that's been going on, kind of moot at this moment?
So I think it's a changed landscape. I think the legal landscape has been changing for some time. So I think prior to Loper Bright, the last time that there were really sort of arguments of Chevron deference before the Supreme Court was 2016. So this isn't, I think, a precedent that has been heavily relied on in recent years. I think it's been sort of eroding, as I said. I think folks anticipated that this might be coming. Realistically, I think there's a interest in relying on administrative agencies in their areas and their expertise. And I don't know that there's a way for us to know for sure, except that it seems that losing people is going to make that more difficult. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation, and yeah, very interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. Director King Meredith?
Yes. And thank you. That was a lot of information. I took down a lot of notes, and I'll be reading a little deeper, and go back and think about what you have presented to us tonight. But I'd like to thank you. Thank you for the update.
Let me know if you have any other
Well
questions.
appreciated.
Director Alvarado?
Yeah, great presentation. Is it okay if you email us those?
Yes, so we're going to include the slides in the minutes, and we can
Okay.
circulate them.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Vice President Sutter?
That was my question. Thank you, David.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, and thank you, because that was exactly what I wanted to hear about the Loper Bright decision on the Chevron deference, and also the updates, the legislative updates. So nice and concise, but yes. Is there anything that we should be looking out for that hasn't been, that's milling around Sacramento right now that we should be paying attention to? I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I thought maybe you might want to tell them that something that we really should be waiting for.
I mean, I think we have like
coming up.
3,000 legislative sessions. So I would say it is early days, and we're still at a point where we need to see what's actually going to be moving forward. As you know, the legislative process in California is sausage making at its best. So it really, there's a lot that can change between now and the time something gets before the governor's desk. But I am happy to kind of, as part of our practice, we're staying on top of these things and watching bills as they move, and I'm happy to update you all as things progress.
I think that would be great. And I also would like General Manager, where is he?
Right here.
I think it would be great because we are headed to Sacramento soon for our legislative days. It would be great to have another one of these. President Rentila and General Manager, to have another one of these quick updates right before we go for the legislative days in May. And I think they're in April and May. I forget which days. But right before that, it would be great so that we can know from they're going to tell us what they want us to talk about, but it'd be great if we knew ourselves what we should be targeting. So that would be my request.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I agree. That's a great comment. Also wanted to just reiterate that for anybody watching, they could always review this meeting on West County Wastewater's website. And I want to thank you for making us better directors and appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. The final item on the agenda is item 9, directors' comments, meeting reports. Madam Clerk, have we received any written comments or requests to speak on this item?
No, we have not. If anyone wishes to speak on item 9, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since our last meeting, I attended the El Sobrante MAC and the West County Forum.
That's it?
That's my report. They didn't talk about sewers. They didn't talk about sewers or anything directly related to the district.
Thank you. Thank you.
Art is in trouble financially and trying to dig their way out of it.
Very good.
As far as the county goes, they're still working on a sound policy. They do have a public arts policy they just passed. But I really thought I'd like to end the meeting early without spending too much time on outside business.
Well, thank you. Moving on, Director King Meredith.
Yes, thank you, President Rutila. I have like 4 pages, but I'm going to cut it short, and I'm going to kind of do a summation. As you know, that Vice President Sutters and myself attended the Wells annual statewide conference on the 7th, March the 7th and March the 8th. And there, the first day of convening was a tour. So we took a tour over in, it was in Orange County, that's where it's at, and we took a tour to the groundwater replenish system, where they had shown us their systems and how it turns wastewater into drinking water. And as we toured this large purification system center, the system which has a joint partnership between Orange County and the Water District and the Sanitation District. It takes highly treated water, wastewater, that could have previously been discharged in the Pacific Ocean. And it purifies it using a 3-step advanced treatment process. Now, we got a chance to really see the 3-step process as we went through. It was about an hour and a half tour. So we got a chance to see the systems, and we had more or less a private showing due to the extensive and the vigorous walking that needed to happen through the plant. So we were given a cart and special treatment to go through the facility before anyone else. Wow. And to say this, as we saw the 3 steps advance, the treatment process consisted of microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet light with the hydrogen peroxide. This project, now listen to this process that we actually seen And we went through location, location, and location to see this highly quality water that went from murky, dark water, smelling water, in these 3 basins. It went from dark, medium, into crystal clear. Upon that travel through the facility, everyone was exhausted. So they offered us water. And we drank the water. It was very good. It was very clear, very good. So with that, I'm going to cut it real short because I had more to speak about. But the water was extremely clear, no smells. It was really remarkable. And they served, Orange County, they served 2.3 million. So if you ever go to Southern California, you are drinking wastewater that has been highly filtrated and it's crystal clear. So that was the tour that we took in Wales. The other we had the next day, which was Saturday, we had excellent speakers. We had the the executive director, Paul Hernandez, and he spoke and he opened up for the sessions and what we were going to be looking forward to for the theme. And the theme for this was the Wales diagnosis of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the decision for makers in California for water sectors. And to put this in a nutshell, it was opened up for the background was 13 years for Wales. And one of the things is bringing just not Latino leaders together. This is everybody has to share this part of water. It affects Latinos, it affects Blacks, and it affects indigenous people. As I told Vice President Sutter, I felt a little out of place because just seeing that it wasn't any of my ancestors there, which is Cherokee, Blackfoot, and Choctaw. So to see that these reservations and to see that people are out there pushing for clean water for everyone. It's not just for Latino leaders. This is for people to work together, people of color and indigenous people. So I have more to say about that, but I know it's of the time. The other thing is that I had another meeting, and it was our ad hoc, and it was just our ad hoc with our chair, Director Alvarado, and our deputy general manager, and that was a brief one. And this was looking at for the request for proposal for our general counsel. And just an announcement, and this is the last thing, just for our announcement, our upcoming community engagement event. And I'll let Director Sutter speak more on that. But it's clean.
Finance administration.
Oh, God, I thought I had them all. And she said financial and,
Got your finance meeting.
I know my finance meeting, financial administration. But I'm going to due to the time, I'm going to let her speak on our upcoming theme for Collect, Clean, and Protect.
Announcements.
Yes, that's an announcement.
Would you say that's enough?
Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you.
thank you.
Director Alvarado.
Brief. I attended the mayor's conference in Lafayette. I attended the March 10th Richmond neighborhood meeting via Zoom. I went to a meet and greet with EBMA Director Joey Smith in the Richmond Library. I attended the March 13th IOE committee meeting with Director King Meredith. I attended an ad hoc committee for our general counsel for RFP via Zoom, and I attended the March 17th San Pablo Council meeting, where there was a special recognition of police officer Brian Ashley, who was presented with a life-saving medal, and there was also a great San Pablo presentation on their housing element annual plan. And that was my meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Suddeth?
Yes. Richmond City Council, Oakland City Council, Contra Costa Board of Supervisors, the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. I was glad to see the presentation tonight because I actually attended the hazardous waste committee meetings. Let me make sure I get this right. A CalWEF meeting, you forgot that one. You were on the CalWEF
About
meeting.
3 of them.
I'm gonna say it for Director King Meredith because she was on the CalWEF meeting.
So many of them, I forget.
She was on the CalWEF meeting with me, so just for the record, so she can have it on there. And our Finance and Committee meeting, Finance and Administration Committee meeting, the Well Annual Conference. A couple of things. I will not repeat what Director King Meredith said. Thank you for covering it. We actually have some photos that I can upload in our report. It's amazing just to see it happen. The Orange County Sanitation District is actually next door to the Orange County water facility, and they're operated separately. So it's really interesting, but it is a beautiful, clean facility.
It's brief.
Sounds strange to say that,
No, it is.
but
It's
it's
the
a
bird you can eat.
very clean facility, and you could not smell a thing,
Beautiful.
which I appreciate, because I did go to the one in, not Costa Mesa, but it's right at the border. Do you know which one, you remember which one that is, General Manager? I went to the one on the border, and I tell you, I wanted to burn my
Got a funny
clothes when I
name.
left there, because it was so smelly. It was not good. I wanted to just take everything, shoes and everything, just throw them in the incinerator. But these two facilities were beautiful, first class smell. It was beautiful. No, it was really close to the border. This one is actually in Orange County. San Isidro, thank you. Thank you, San Isidro. Oh. San Isidro. Oh my goodness. Yes, it's right at the border. It was. Orange County. This one where we went to is right in Orange County.
Yeah, so right on.
It's called Orange County.
In LA County,
Yeah.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah, it's before, it's,
Giant one? Is
yes.
that the one you went to?
We went to the water, yeah. That's a really good one. This one, like Director King Meredith said, it's a phenomenal facility. I would encourage, if you're down there, to go and see it. They again, when I tell you that you barely saw anyone, but again, it was on a Saturday. They serve 19 cities. They're a reseller, 370,000 acre feet annually, 130 million gallons of water to Orange County. Again, they're a reseller to the 19 cities that surround them. But that was on the water side. On the wastewater side, of course, it's the basin is, it was immaculate. But then coming back over to the WHALE conference, one of the panels was on the infrastructure and the balance. It was very timely because we were talking about, I will remind you guys, I sat on the panel for planning this. We were talking about will the federal and state priorities meet our local needs. And in between the conference, I actually had another update. I had these updates coming from these legislative updates coming. And when I got back, I had for my day job, I had APTA meeting, but then on my other one, I had the women in the legislative women's update. And so I want to give you that one too, what I got. I actually got these late Friday night when I come back, and then I wanted to ask the general counsel a question about that. And so we talked about that. We talked about the lessons that we can learn from the Los Angeles firestorms and the impact on on extreme weather resilience and what we can learn from that for our water treatment systems and wastewater treatment systems. We talked about PFAS and the federal standards and WIFIA funding and how that's at risk. We had a long conversation about the challenges to recovery when we have these extreme weather conditions. And I mean, these panels were phenomenal. It wasn't just the panels, it was the discussions, period. There is a study that's going on, Dr. Samuel Sandoval Solis. He's the policy and curriculum advisor to Will, but he's also a professor at UC Davis. He's doing this study of the diversity, equity, and inclusion of decision makers in California's water systems. It's a statewide study, and he's doing the research, and he's conducted the research of the 2,100 water systems and wastewater systems throughout California to inform this research. He will also inform grant makers of what we need in order to develop this diagnostic statistics that'll move us forward in this grant making process. And then one of the other panels was, how do we build consensus on water issues, water and wastewater issues, so we can drive effective policy. And then what else was I going to tell you? And then community strategies in this very challenging administrative environment that we're in. Now, the other thing I wanted to say to you guys is going back to the information from the other side of the country. You may know that the CR was approved by Congress, which averted that national disaster that would shut down the federal government. But when it did it, it just largely extended the fiscal year 24 funding levels. And so we had a call on Monday to go through what that looks like and what that looks like for our water and wastewater community. And they did a very good job of breaking it down. And so what that means is that, you know, the Senate, when they approved the spending bill on Friday, it doesn't establish new funding levels for 2025. It just continues the fiscal year spending amounts for most of the federal programs, which includes the EPA Water Infrastructure Program for the rest of this fiscal year ending September 30. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned was, so for us, even though, you know, the full allotment of clean water and drinking water SRF dollars are going to be made available to the states, but it's that 1.639 billion and 1.126 billion. But that 1.4 billion that was set aside, the earmarks are included in the CR. So all of the earmarks that congressional reps have put aside for projects, they are not included in the CR for FY25. So that was like that's the biggest thing. The WIFIA program at 65 million, that's maintained. That's maintained in FY25, it's maintained at the same level as 24. The infrastructure, the mid-size and large water system infrastructure resilience sustainability program is maintained at 2.25 million. What else can I tell you really quickly? Right now, they're working on a 26 budget, And the hope is that, this is, the call we had was from AWWA and AMWA, which are all water, national water organizations. They are going to put out a call to action for us to write in to try and get more money. But right now, just so you know, the energy and water sector, FY24, the actual numbers were 58.2 billion. The FY25 CR is at 58.1 billion. So it's a differential of about, 0.1 billion dollars. The interior and environment was 38.6 billion in FY24. And the new CR is 40.9 billion. So it actually had a little bit more. It's 2.3 billion for the Department of the Interior and Environment. And I think pretty much, that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot more to tell you, except that the difference between last year, when you put all of the departments together, the difference is the FY24 was 1.59 trillion. FY25 is at 1.6 trillion. So with all of the talk and jumping up and down, it's a $10 billion savings between now. It sounds like a money. 10 billion is still a lot of money, but it's not what everyone's hoping for. And right now, the budget talks are for FY26, and it's going to be a battle. But they only have, so even though this goes to September 30th, they don't have that long to pass the budget. They only have into June to pass this budget. And if they don't do it, they have problems. But I did want to tell you guys what we're looking at for our water and wastewater, but we will be going back for Water Week in May, and then Public Works Week is the 18th to 24th of May. So I just want to say that so that we can be thinking about how we show appreciation for our Public Works staff. CSDA Legislative Week is in Sacramento, the 19th through 21st of May. And of course, it's Women's History Month right now. And it is also Procurement Month. Procurement professional. So it is Procurement Month. So yay, we celebrate procurement. We celebrate it because we're in challenging times for procurement and sourcing and all of that other stuff. But so to our West County procurement people, happy Procurement Month. And to all of our women and girls, happy Women's History Month. I know Director King Meredith has an announcement. Sorry.
Oh, it's too late now.
But after you finish, but it's your turn now. It's your turn now.
Okay. So RNCC, we have finance coming in next meeting, and then fire. There's some issues that insurance policies have changed. The way insurance companies do work their insurance around high fire areas have changed. So we're going to get a lot of information on that. We have the mayor of Richmond and crime prevention manager, Michelle Milam, coming into our neighborhood council meeting at Hilltop Community Church next Thursday. So if anybody's interested in meeting the mayor or talking to the mayor, please come by. I did attend the IOE committee and the mayor's conference. And I want to thank all the presenters tonight. Thank you. And I want to thank Kate for filling in, doing a great job. Thank you. And so I'll just throw it to Kate, our clerk, excuse me. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just a quick announcement. Thank you, President Ventila. As I was saying, yes, I just turned it on. As I was mentioning that it's going to be an upcoming community engagement event, and the theme is Collect, Clean, and Protect. It will be Saturday, March the 29th, 2025, Doors will be open at 10:30 a.m. for registration and sign-in. It'll start at, the program will start at 11 a.m. to 1, and it will be held at the Corrine Sain Senior and Family Community Center, 515 Silver Ave in North Richmond. The panelists will be Vice President, Director Sutters, District 5, and myself, Director King Meredith. And we will be having other panels, and this is just to speak and talk about water. We're talking about water. And we'll be having other elected officials, and it's for everyone to come and drop in. It's going to be limited space, but refreshments will be served.
Well, thank you. That was definitely worth the wait. Thank you.
Can you send a
And
copy of that?
protect. We
Via
have
email?
flyers. Yes, we have flyers.
Yeah, email
Yeah.
us, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have flyers. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yep. Okay, so the next Infrastructure Operations and Environment Committee meeting is scheduled for April 8th at 10 a.m. A Finance and Administration Committee meeting is scheduled for April 10th at 9 a.m. And the next regular board meeting is scheduled for April 16th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, thank you. And before we close this meeting, Director Alvarado asked if he could say some words before we close this meeting. Director Alvarado?
Thank
the floor
you.
is yours.
Much appreciated. I would like to adjourn this meeting this evening in honor of Leda Cruz Ortiz, a member of my wife's family. My wife is Elizabeth Pabon Alvarado, who Leda Cruz Ortiz recently passed away after a long illness. Leda was mother to Arsenio Pabon, Janet Pabon, and Ellie Pabon, not my wife, her niece, and was married to Jose Cora. So I wanted to adjourn the meeting in her honor, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. So be it. I'd like to close this meeting. It's March 19th, 9:35. Thank you, everybody.